Hi, my name is Liza Vandenboom, and I'm a reporter with Religion Unplugged. Today, I am joined today by Corey Paul, Nijalon, and Pastor Petey, some friends of George Floyd. Thank you for joining me today.
No problem. No
Good,
problem.
good.
Whoever wants to take this question, we can, since Reconcile isn't here today. Reconcile shared a little anecdote on Twitter about hauling baptismal pools around to baptize people in what he called the hood. Do any of you guys have experience with George Floyd, in a ministerial capacity?
So I can start from the beginning. We uh I when I was part of a local church in Third Ward. uh that church was trying to like do what we were supposed to do, make disciples of the people in our actual community. And so we were throwing an event in called Hope for the Tray, and it was a concert. And ironically, Core and Rec opened up for that concert, but we were pubbing the concert and getting flyers out. And so we were in the CUNY Homes uh, housing project, which is down the street from the place we were throwing the concert at, giving out flyers. We met a guy who said, "Bet I'm going to come." So, all right, we don't know if people gonna come, don't come, whatever. So we concert starts, he's there, and he's with this guy. It's Big Floyd. And so we see him. The pastors at the church, they see him, and they immediately run over because because he stands out in the crowd. So we go over there, we meet him, we talk to him, we hang out, and that started the relationship. So fast forward, uh, we start trying to do aggressive, like actual life on life discipleship in this particular neighborhood. And I'm gonna let either Nigel or Cord pick up, but essentially, he was like, um, I don't. Can we still use OG? We still use it OG.
We still you, of course.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
You gotta say
He was
that.
he was like the OG of the neighborhood, and uh, made sure that we were welcomed in. The Bible would call it person of peace, and who allowed us to, it helped us and allowed us to operate in his neighborhood. Uh, and I'm gonna let them like give some more
Yeah.
details as to how.
And so for for Rick's tweet is what you're talking about with the baptism tub is we would have a church in the bricks is what we called it, where we would have church in the CUNY Homes apartment housing, and it
On
would
the
be right
basketball
on the
court.
basketball court. It'd be in the center of the
Church in the what? I'm sorry.
yeah, church in the bricks.
Okay.
So CUNY Homes is the apartment, like the housing that we were working in, and they
The
called it the
government housing projects.
yeah, and so they called it the bricks. And so when we would go and have church on the court, we called it church in the bricks, right? So this is Floyd's neighborhood. This is his community, and he's like he ushered us in, as in like mi casa su casa type ushered us in. So when we would have to set up, putting down, because it's nothing, just a basketball court. So everything from speakers to chairs to tables, everything, having to be looked from one location to the next. Floyd would even be helping with that. So literally helping drag, this tub, out to the court for people.
It's basically a horse trough.
Yeah. For the bits filled up with water for people to get baptized. That's Nijalon got baptized.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
In the
That.
neighborhood?
Mm-hmm. At church in the bricks, in the neighborhood, in that trough, in that tub.
Nijalon, could you tell me a little bit about that experience?
Yeah. So I think for me, that experience was monumental. I mean, look, I spent so much time in and out of the church growing up. I was getting baptized every summer since I was like 6. it's just the thing to do. It was just the thing to do. But, so for us, or so for me specifically, I was at a place in my faith where the way that I was moving forward and the things that I was seeking to do, I wanted them to be authentic, and I wanted those things to be made by a heart and a life that's been transformed by the gospel, and one that's not, pushed forward by peer pressure. I wanted to reflect. So the heart change that's happened in me inwardly, I wanted that to be reflective outwardly. And so we did it at Church in the Bricks, and we had the 3-on-3 tournament, basketball tournament the day before. I told Big Floyd I was getting baptized the next day, and he was like, "Nephew, I'll be there," and so, he showed up early and he helped bring out the baptism pool. He helped us carry chairs outside of the community center. And that's the great part about it. Floyd has some big, long arms. I've seen him carry at least 30 chairs one time, but so for me, it was a beautiful experience. We talk about Big Floyd being an OG, a person of peace, a gatekeeper. He empowered us. He was someone from the community who empowered some brothers and sisters from outside of the community to usher the gospel in. So he meant the world to us. Then I think for me, to be able to be baptized in a place like CUNY Homes, it was a sign of hope. People were there. People were all around. People from the neighborhood were there. So yeah.
Cool.
And how did you get connected to Pastor Petey and this Church in the Bricks project?
Me?
Yes.
So I'm originally from Austin. So I moved from Austin in 2015 to intern with Resurrection Houston. So I connected with them back in Austin. Then we just built a relationship. Then I came out in the top of May of 2015 to intern with them. And to I wanted to do community development. What they were doing was holistic gospel. It wasn't, hey, we're going to stand behind this microphone, a megaphone, a pulpit. But we're gonna live life with you. And that's what we did. We lived life with people. And so to have someone like Big Floyd who would walk alongside of us, and what Big Floyd gave us was an endorsement deal. We got an endorsement deal with Big Floyd. Nike will pay LeBron James X amount of hundreds of $millions to promote their brand, to make it comfortable, to make it desirable among people, to make sure people respect it. And that's what Big Floyd did. He made sure people respected the work that we had going on, and not in the respect of like they're preaching and teaching, so therefore you need to respect the message. But he taught respect on a human to human level. So yeah.
So he was a pretty esteemed member of that community then, and well connected. Would you say that George had a passion for evangelism? And if so, where do you think that came from?
Yeah. So it's pretty. So this could be pretty dope. So, I think we all probably have kind of the same pattern of even us on the Zoom is, you grow up in this community, and a lot of times the community is tough, man. It's low income. It's a product of a lot of systematic oppression, and struggle is pain, and you see a lot of that transpire. And so as we get to know who the Lord is, right, we get to know who God is, then we're able to see like how he's kept us and how he's still in the ultimate control and all of these things. So when you talk about Floyd's evangelism, that was not just something he doesn't get up to a microphone and go preach or do it in that stance. It's his everyday lifestyle.
It's
right?
Relational.
It's relational, right? So it's hundreds of people that's from Third Ward, that are giving all of these personal accounts, and it's so many screenshots of messages that a lot of different one of them have individually received from Floyd, where he's encouraging them, continuing your good work, stay focused, God got this, trust in him, he has the plan. He talks about in the video where he's advocating against gun violence, asking the brothers to come home, that at the end it's going to be them and God, right? When we first met, it was, if it's God business, then it's my business. So it wasn't a thing, where he's like, I'm gonna go out and preach. That's how he lived. You know what I'm saying? Coming from where we come from and understanding that the Lord does save. That's how he lived his life, as a literal walking example of that.
Do you know if George was raised in the church or had a conversion experience, or what made him so interested in this relational love movement you guys have talked about?
Well, I mean, so okay, so we probably should just upfront. We probably all, traditional African American culture, we all go to church. We all went to church, but I mean, we probably come to faith differently, like that. So, and we knowing that and understanding that, like our goal was, hey, we think of discipleship as a process. Like, there's not this one moment of aha, but like, hey, let's walk with you. Another way I can say it is, I used to tell this story about the way the Celtics evangelize, the Celtics evangelize. So the Romans, they would come in, they preach the gospel to you, you repent, you believe, then you became a part of their fellowship. Well, the Celtics were savages. And so if you didn't have a relationship with them, which the Roman church didn't, you weren't going to survive. And so St. Patrick, and that's how he got the name, was a missionary to the Celtics in Ireland. And he realized that, man, I need to flip the discipleship process on its head. I need to go in here. I need to embrace them and let them be part of the community. And as they're part of the community, they hear the gospel. As they hear the gospel and they see John 13:35, that they'll know us, they'll know we're his disciples by the love we have for one another. Then they make decisions, little micro decisions, to trust him in different ways. And so the whole idea of embracing somebody and allowing them to be part of your community is saying, hey, one day, as long you stick with us long enough, we love you long enough, you'll come to know the Lord. And so that's the trajectory of what we saw in his life, from when we first met him, decade or so ago, to him deciding that he was going to enter he's in Minnesota not to hang out. He's in Minnesota to be part of a church work program, and that was going to get him the certifications he needed to do some of the work that he wanted to do.
What kind of certifications were those?
I think it was like truck driver certifications, so that he could operate trucks,
18-wheelers and stuff. Yeah, that's right.
And when did he complete that certification? Was he able to?
I think he was in the process of doing that. That's why he was in Minnesota. It was a program. He was there. He was working, and there's these other narratives out there. No one leaves Third Ward
to go to Minnesota. To hang out.
He's there on
laughable.
Business. Like, he has no family out there that we know of to speak of. Man, he was there handling business. And so we just want to make sure that gets out there too. Is when this was not whatever they're going to paint. You know, he was out there. And another way to describe it is he was out there to be discipled.
Yep.
Do you have a memory, just trying to share the person that George was and what he meant to you guys? Do you have a memory that you think is quintessentially George, or a little anecdote that encapsulates his love for ministry and his love for his community, and that you would say just shows his personality?
Nigel?
I want to insert something before we get there. So, you know, George wasn't a, you know, associate pastor, director of outreach ministry, you know, intern, president. It wasn't any of those things. This is a man from Third Ward who had a heart changed by God. And, you know, going back to your question, like, what did evangelism look like for Big Floyd? It looks like, I'm sure when Paul would visit churches in Galatia, Ephesus, there were people who cleared the way for him to come in and said, these are our people. We don't know. Teach. Floyd empowered us to teach. He made the space for us to be able to teach. And he put his name on the line, his reputation on the line.
So paint the picture for her, like how that actually, because she may not understand. Like we know, but like paint that picture for her.
Paint the picture of what that looks like.
Yeah, like, you know, I mean, how we physically need somebody to endorse us.
Yeah, so I mean, I think. Can you restate the question again? Were you talking about memories?
Yeah, I was asking your favorite memory or story or anecdote that you think just really shows the person that he was.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the memories that stands out for me is it's probably the day that we had a 3-on-3 basketball tournament in CUNY Homes, and this brought out the whole neighborhood. It brought out part of the city. You know, we had people from Southwest, from the North Side, the East Side. You know, so everybody was there, and you know, I had a chance to chop it up with him. I told him, you know, I was getting baptized the next day, and for him, like he was proud of that. I really think that he believed in the mission that we were doing. Again, I didn't grow up with Floyd. I didn't go to high school with him. You know, it wasn't like we were hanging out, you know, at barbecues at his house or something like that. But I think for us, it's, you know, a lot of this stuff in retrospect, you look at it and you like, man, this, you know, even thinking about the impactful work that we're doing, I believe we came into Big Floyd's life at a time period where God was really tugging on his heart and was really changing him, really being real to him. And I think it's that met excitement. I think that's why he ushered us in the way that he did. So, you know, my memories are, you know, him allowing us to come into his home, his neighborhood, his city, and push the gospel forward. So.
And were you guys working in that neighborhood prior to meeting Big Floyd, or was he your ticket in?
I mean, we've been working in that neighborhood. We've collectively been working in that neighborhood since probably 2009, 2010. And so, but as far as, you know, and you're tilling soil, you're meeting people, you're, you know, doing what you can do, but like, so the biblical term we would call is a person of peace. Someone who not only opens their door so that you can come in and be a part of their life, but they actually open the door to other people in the neighborhood and their lives as well. duplicating the work that one person, like if I went to 50 houses and every person, you know, opened a door, I can go to his house and he'd open the door to 100 people.
Exactly. That's a great way to. It's perfect.
And then just one detailed question. When was that 3x3 basketball tournament that you were talking about? Do you remember?
Dates.
That's 2010, right?
No, that 303?
I was 2015.
15.
Oh,
It was the summer, right?
You're talking about the
ball.
one with Nijalon.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Because before that, I thought you were talking about the ones with
Hope
Yeah.
for the trade concerts.
Yeah, the Hope for the trade joints. Yeah, I got that. So 2015, yeah.
Okay. And then
that was like the summer, right?
Yeah.
That was the summer of 2015.
Right in the summer.
It was, right.
Okay, and then this one is for Pastor PT, and then all of you guys to kind of chime in after that. But do you think that the churches should encourage their communities to protest for justice after some of the protesters have turned to rioting? Or how can faith communities take the lead in recent activism, in criminal justice reform, and in healing racial tensions in productive and peaceful ways?
Ask that one more time.
How would you encourage churches to advocate for reforms and change in criminal justice and in healing racial tensions in our country? What do you think the role of the church is in that?
So, you know, let me say this. I understand the current climate we have. There is a lot of anger, but I would say I understand why that anger is there, and I understand why people feel like they can't wait. In the words of Martin Luther King, and so because I not only understand it, I have some of it. However, I think my understanding of my personal sin in my life and the systemic sin that we see of racism, I realize that we all need Jesus, and we all need hope, and we all need help. And so how I think the church, because I can't speak to how everyone else should operate, because, you know, they're operating out of what they know. I think the church should operate on 3 levels. I think we should definitely be people talking about the gospel, giving the gospel, and helping people and making sure that the word is out there, you know, preaching all that. But then 2, I think the church should be about developing the communities that we say are struggling. Like a lot of times, man, most churches I know, man, they'll send me a check. I can do the white guilt thing. They'll send me a check, and you know, me and Ronnie and Nijalon and Corey will get out there and do the work. We love the work, but I think being engaged. We talk about discipleship. Community development is discipleship, and being in those spaces and being proximate to the pain that you see in the communities. A lot of times, man, we rail against what we see because we don't have any proximity to it. If you live in River Oaks and there's a problem in 3rd Ward and you've never been to 3rd Ward or you've never had encounters with people from 3rd Ward, you're not going to understand how to help it. So I think churches should be involved and engaged in community development, i.e. discipleship. And then on the 3rd level, there needs to be churches, particularly churches with people who are in positions of power, police, lawyers, judges, politicians, wannabe politicians, people with who can pull the levels of power in the society should be about policy making in their particular city, their particular location. For instance, in Houston, we don't have an independent civilian review board with subpoena power in a city of 4 million people. And with all these well-meaning Christians that we have in this, in the city, all these different huge mega churches with all these people with power, the fact that we don't have that is an indication that maybe, we ought to rethink what we think the Great Commission is. And so though that would be my answer. 3 levels: the gospel being preached, definitely. 2, community development. 3, people of status of faith that call themselves Christians should be out and helping to create policy that helps not just the church, but the neighborhood and the city in general.
You want to add to that, Corey?
No, I'll just say the same thing Pete said again.
Yeah, and I'll add to that with this. This isn't the first time this has happened, right? This has been happening forever. And every year, these mega churches or churches, they'll do a summer series and bring in whoever the hottest black pastor is at that time to speak on it. But we're past summer sermon series. And, what we don't need is, people need to take time to mourn. So to the church, I would say, hey, legitimately heart check and see if you're actually mourning. What we don't need is a bunch of people who are going to run out there in the name of Big Floyd who didn't know him, who didn't have a relationship with him, or who haven't put in the work and desire to actually know him and start doing things in his name, things that he wouldn't stand for. There's things that are happening across the country right now that aren't done in the spirit of Big Floyd. And so I think churches, I think one, need to sit back and listen to other pastors who are putting in the actual work, who are actually toiling the soil, who are actually in there, who are giving their time, their talent, their own resources. Come around us, and if you want to operate in the spirit of Big Floyd, empower us to continue to do the work that we're doing. But there are real conversations that need to be had. And if we think that they need to happen in the next 3 days or 48 hours, then we've missed the mark. This is a long conversation. For us, we're in it for the long haul. And so I just want to make sure that there is an emphasis put on that. To us, he won't just be another hashtag, but to millions of other people, other evangelicals, he will just be another hashtag. So that's what I would add.
And going forward, you've talked about this long haul. Do you have any plans in place for supporting his community and those people who did know him and who are toiling in the soil, like you said, and encouraging them and empowering them to advocate for peace and for justice?
Yeah, we on the phone. Again, for us, one of the biggest things that's been important to us is lamenting and grieving and mourning, and not just trying to jump to something. So we're on the phone. We're on the phone with cousins, close friends, high school classmates, things like that. So,
and to that, I think this is a really dope experience to kind of think through that, like with the question you asked about, like, helping the community at a time like this. So for us, that's every day, like that, fighting for awareness and justice and empowerment of the communities we serve. That's natural. That's what we do. When something like this happens with Floyd, what it does is it magnifies what's happening every day on a global level. So on the everyday, so a person who's in their everyday life, they see something like this with Floyd, and they're outraged, rightfully so, and we are too. But on different levels, this happens every day, right? Like, we literally had a friend of ours wrongfully accused and arrested. And if it wasn't for, and he's from the neighborhood, and if it wasn't for the fact that his pastor happens to be an attorney, you know what I mean? He would have actually did time for a crime he didn't commit. So that's not just a Netflix documentary, to us of innocent people. It's not like it's this outrage that something like that, an innocent man, is just unfortunately natural. It's normal. So I think that that's really solid to think when we think about, like, man, this happened before. Okay, what can we do to help? Man, it's so many Floyds, right? It's so many Floyds in communities every day. That the hope is that his untimely death would spark a understanding that this is like eating every day. This is like drinking water every day. This is like breathing air every day. This injustice is continuous. It doesn't stop once the hashtag fades. So that this would be the spark that makes we say as believers that break my heart for the things that breaks the heart of the Lord, right? If it's not right with him, I don't want it to be right with me. So every day we should be living out of an understanding that this injustice is happening every day.
Thank you for that, Corey. And then one last question as we wrap up here, run out of time, is that you'd mentioned that there are things happening around the country that are not in the spirit of Big Floyd. I think it was Nijalon who said that. What do you think he would say if he were around to say it still, to these people who are enraged, to these people who are toiling in the soil, who face this every day? What do you think he would have to say to them?
I think Corey posted a video a couple of days of what he was saying to some senseless violence happening here in Houston. I would encourage you to watch that video. I think that message would be the exact same thing.
And what would you have to say? I think this is more for PT. You talked about that anger that's still in you and that you feel it too. What would you have to say to these people who are really angry and who might be doing things that aren't in the spirit of Big Floyd? How would you encourage them specifically?
Man, that's a sermon. So I would specifically say, hey, you were right. He was innocent. He was slaughtered like Cain slaughtered Abel. But I would encourage them to say, just because his life isn't over, his life is over, it doesn't mean that his blood doesn't speak. And God hears it, and he will avenge it either on Judgment Day to those particular individuals and the system that placed him in that position, or it was handled 2,000 years ago on the cross of Jesus Christ, so that he will be vindicated. There is justice, and man, to not lose hope, and that Jesus' blood speaks of redemption, hope, forgiveness, but also the fact that the things that he went through, God doesn't just say, you know what, I'm turning a blind eye to it. No, either Jesus paid for it or those particular individuals will.
And to people that see, everything that's going on, um, it's people that see everything that's going on, and don't understand how, why would you loot, why would you riot, why would you burn these things down, who can't comprehend, where that's coming from. I would say to them that there you go. The fact that you can't see how people get to this point, is indicative of a gap of understanding, right? So that's also very important to understand, is not just how could they do, but why are they doing, right? This isn't 2 or 3 isolated incidents. These are thousands of people, right, who are demonstrating their anger, their rage, right? And so talking about in the spirit of Floyd, agree 100% with my brothers. Not saying that it's condoned, or we're not saying that Floyd would agree with, but we are saying, what I'm saying is, I think you got to understand. So if you ask me, what do you think about, what they're doing? I get it. I completely get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if what happened to Floyd don't make you, want to do something, want to go out and do something to show, this will not go unnoticed, right? This will not go unnoticed. Understanding that, at least. But if you are in a position where you just like, I don't get it, I don't see how, that right there is showing you that you haven't begun to understand before being understood.
Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you, for sharing your memories and your stories and your perspectives with me today.
For sure.
I'm wishing you guys peace and good luck in the work that you're doing. It's very important.
Thank you. Thank you for taking time. I would appreciate it.